The question I've been asking myself is, what would be the best books for someone in my position? Well, I've decided that today we'll just go over all 14 of these nonfiction books in one go. This is a list of 14 of the best nonfiction books that every person should read, and I'm going to go through all 14 and give you a brief overview of them all in 1 minute. Number 1. The Body Keeps the Score. One of the founding fathers of trauma research, Dr. van der Kolk coined the term PTSD. He has been studying trauma since the mid-1970s. Trauma has a profound effect on you psychologically, your life, and as the title implies, your body, your neurology, your physiology, and how it affects your day-to-day activities. This book is a book about how trauma affects you both psychologically and how it affects your life. Aside from that, he gives an overview of how different therapeutic practices work, how they don't, why they work, and when they work. Number 2. The Paradox of Choice. Basically, psychologists found that when you have more choices, you are less satisfied with the choices you make. It's a simple psychological finding that is actually really profound. Now, why does this matter? It's important because modern life has so many choices to choose from. Heck, just think about it. You've got 8,100 videos on YouTube to choose from. You ought to read this book. We're all subjected to it. Number 3. Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. A philosophical idea originating from John Locke, the blank slate came out in the 1990s, but its relevance is probably stronger today than ever before. In other words, the human mind starts as a blank slate, a blank sheet of paper, and whatever we feel good or bad about is a reflection of our environment or culture. This line of thinking has been popular for centuries, and it has taken many forms over the years. Locke's humanism and purism were all part of it in the 1600s. We refer to this stuff these days as woke culture, this idea that you can be anything you want if you want to be. Marxism was part of it in the 20th century. Basically, Pinker showed that the only thing keeping you from being who you want to be is societal pressures and definitions that keep you from being who you really are. With 600 pages worth of research notes, he basically demonstrated the illusion. It's a fantasy. We all love the idea that all of our bad qualities aren't our fault. It's the evil society that made us that way. In other words, Pinker proves that genetics play a relatively small role in all aspects of our lives. The inherent biology of our bodies can only be modified in so much as we can. He does this in a thoughtful, fair, rational manner. It's a must-read for those interested in these sorts of topics, like gender, sex, race, and so on controversies that are going on these days. Number 4. Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix PhD. It has a cheesy title, but it has mind-blowing content. Anyone who is in a relationship, which, by the way, is everyone, should read this book. It basically explores why we get into our relationships the way we do. We've all heard the cliches that boys marry their mothers, girls fall in love with their fathers, etc. It came from Freud, I believe. This book breaks down all of that stuff. It makes sense that once we become adults, we naturally gravitate toward others with similar emotional maps to our own. We establish mental maps of how loving relationships operate in childhood, and it's just what we understand. Number 5. The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. Honestly, I cannot say enough about this book. Becker's argument is so simple, yet it is really profound at the same time. It basically says that a lot of our motivations in life, the things we find purpose in, are based on our apprehension of dying. In fact, we desire to deny or avoid the reality of our own mortality, which is why we do all we can. To do this, we must undertake monumental projects that will last us the rest of our lives, whether that is writing a book, raising children, putting our name on a building, or developing a project that will change the world. It's important to remember that we are going to die and that sense of purpose is the ability to forget that we are going to die. In reality, this sense of purpose is really about forgetting that we are going to die. Number 6. Influence by Robert Cialdini. You should read this book if you are involved in marketing or sales publicity. In this book, psychological research is applied to understand how people are influenced and persuaded to make a variety of decisions, whether they are motivated to help others believe something or, most importantly, to purchase a certain product. The number of triggers we have in our psychology that makes us prone to making certain decisions is actually quite astonishing. In addition to being useful for anyone who works in marketing since it helps them understand how to get people to buy products, it's also crucial for consumers since it helps them understand how they're being manipulated. Number 7. Atomic Habits by James Clear. There's a reason why this book is so popular these days. It's awesome. It is actually because James actually focuses on what really determines habit change, which is understanding the underlying emotions of our behavior, that this book has stuck around and become so popular, whereas other habits books have kind of drifted away after a while. There's more to it than just writing down goals, creating a 3-week action plan, or whatever. As James sees it, most behaviors are emotional in nature, which is why you have to address them in order to change them. A change in emotional behavior is the first step in changing physical behavior. It's also really cool how he shows how tons and tons and tons of little things accumulate and compound over time in much the same way, which is another really profound part of this book. You become a millionaire by 50 if you save 10% of your paycheck. He explains how that applies to your habits as well.